effortless fat loss, and optimal health, all while eating as much as you care for. Tell me another diet that can claim the same. There's a big misconception in some quarters that by simply dropping animal products and eating a vegan diet, automatically we're going to have great health. This is often far from the truth. From a nutritionist perspective, it's not very useful simply to use the term vegan when describing someone's diet. Veganism speaks to their ethical stance. Yes, it tells me what they don't eat, meat, eggs, dairy and fish, etc. But it doesn't tell me what they do eat. You can eat vegan and subsist on crisps, donuts and ice cream. This will have a very different health outcome to someone eating kale, quinoa and berries. This is why it's best to use the distinction whole foods vegan or whole foods plant-based when discussing nutrition. To truly optimize the diet, we must base our meals around the following things: legumes, whole grains, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, herbs and spices. The more of these foods that we eat, the healthier we will be. All other foods, animal products and processed junk, including vegetable oils, are best avoided as much as possible. Instead of cooking with oil, choose a solid as opposed to coated non-stick pan, adding a little water at a time as necessary. This way you can still caramelize your foods. It may seem strange at first, but by about the third time you'll be used to it. Were you then to be served food cooked in oil, you will likely find it distasteful and greasy, and you'll notice that you can't taste the ingredients quite as well. If you have the same experience as me, you'll be wondering how you ate foods cooked that way for quite so long. If anyone tries to tell you that we need some oil in our diets, ask them how we managed for the other 99+% of human history before we invented the processing of oils. To say oil is healthy because it comes from olives, nuts or seeds is akin to saying that table sugar is healthy because sugar is found in fruit. A totally fallacious statement. To be fair, olive oil is healthier than what it would displace, butter, but all oils come with many negatives. It is the most calorically dense of any food. It contains a fraction of the nutrients versus the whole plant food from which it was processed, and it feeds pathogenic gut bacteria. Most oils have an unfavorable omega-6 to 3 ratio, and any omega-3 found in oils is destroyed by the cooking process. The higher cooking temperatures achieved with oil create more oxygen-free radicals. When we superheat starches, we create acrylamides, a suspected carcinogen. And when we superheat fats and proteins, we create more advanced glycation end products, a gerontotoxin that accelerates the aging process throughout every tissue of the human body. The worst oils in terms of health potential are coconut oil, palm oil and palm kernel oil, which have saturated fats known as long and very long chain triglycerides, which contribute towards heart disease, the #1 killer of humans. Cocoa butter too has these harmful fats and is therefore also best avoided. When switching from a standard Western diet to a whole foods plant-based diet, the #1 mistake I see people making is that they don't consume enough calories. As whole plant foods come with a lot of water and fiber, we need to eat more volume in order to get the same amount of calories that we get from processed junk and animal products. For someone trying to maintain their mass, or especially for someone trying to grow muscle, it's important to emphasize the more calorically dense whole plant foods. Legumes, whole grains, tropical and dried fruits, nuts, seeds, whole nut and seed butters, and avocados will be your best friends. Although somewhat processed, tempeh and tofu are great additions too, and smoothies are a brilliant strategy for getting more calories in. For someone trying to lose weight, this eating pattern is a godsend. Again, we need to eat the whole range of plant foods, but this time we'll lean more heavily towards the low-calorie, water-rich fruits and vegetables. In this way, it's quite possible to stuff yourself silly at each meal and still lose weight. The Broad study out of New Zealand at the end of 2016 showed that people eating ad libitum, i.e. as much as they cared for on this eating pattern, lost on average 1 pound of excess body fat each week. At the same time, their blood pressure, cholesterol and triglycerides all came down to within the healthy range. effortless fat loss, and optimal health, all while eating as much as you care for. Tell me another diet that can claim the same. If you're enjoying the information presented in this video and you'd like to do a really deep dive, then please check out my new online vegan nutrition course. I've launched it at a low introductory price. It contains 14 videos, 2 cookbooks, and masses of downloadable and printable PDFs, including a chart of nutrition requirements by age and stage of life. If you'd like to be more scientific about changing your body shape but don't yet know your caloric needs, here's what you need to do. Find yourself an online total daily energy expenditure (TDEE) calculator. It will ask you for various stats: sex, age, height and weight, etc. The better ones will also ask you for your body fat percentage. If you don't know what yours is, you can simply look up charts for males and females and compare yourself with the photos on there. This part is not terribly essential and only needs to be a rough idea. From there, you'll be prescribed an amount of calories which, if eaten daily, should see you maintain your current body weight. In order to lose weight, you'll need to get yourself into a caloric deficit, or in order to put weight on, you need to get yourself into a caloric surplus. By doing a morning weigh-in once per week, after the loo and before we eat or drink anything, we can find out our true weight. By eating the same amount of calories each day and repeating this protocol in exactly 1 week, we can see exactly what's happening in the body and make any adjustments as necessary. A 500 calorie deviation either way from our maintenance calories will see us gain or lose around 1 pound per week. Legumes, tempeh and tofu are about the most protein rich of the healthy vegan foods. Some whole grains, particularly amaranth and quinoa, are also very good sources. Nuts and seeds have good amounts of protein, and some vegetables can be moderately rich. Believe it or not, even fruits, on average, are 5% protein. The World Health Organization sets daily protein requirements for a male at 56 grams per day, and for females, 46. If you're actively trying to build muscle, it may be more optimal to shoot for more like 1.6 grams of protein per kilo of leanish body weight per day. Or for dieting purposes, nearer 2 grams of protein per kilo of leanish body weight per day may see you retain the most muscle mass. For a hard training athlete trying to reach their elevated requirements, 1 or 2 scoops of protein powder can be beneficial. For its quality, digestibility, and the fact that it's third-party tested for over 500 different contaminants, I recommend the VivoLife brand. You can get 10% off the cost of your first order with code HENCH10. Any subsequent orders bought through my special link will help to fund my work on this channel, so thanks in advance if you decide to keep using that. There is still a lot of nonsense going around about plant-based diets and the need to protein combine at each meal. All whole plant foods contain all essential amino acids, albeit in varying ratios. But while it's true that certain plant foods can be fairly low in some essential amino acids, there's no need to worry about combining them with different foods at each meal. Our bodies store pools of free amino acids, so as long as we eat the range of different types of whole plant foods, by the end of the day, we'll be golden. For healthy, starchy carbohydrates, think whole grains and tubers, including potatoes, sweet potatoes and yams. Legumes and many vegetables are rich in starch too. As for sugar-rich sources, there are fruits. Don't make the mistake of confusing sugar in whole foods form attached to the fiber and wonderful phytochemicals with processed, refined sugar. Health-wise, the former is amazing, the latter, terrible. The one way we can make fruits unhealthy is to juice them. Devoid of fiber, the sugar becomes harmful in the body. So while it's perfectly healthy to drink smoothies, it's best to swerve fruit juices. Healthy fat sources include nuts and seeds, and the whole butters, and avocados. It's important to include ground flax, aka linseeds, or ground chia seeds daily. These are higher in the anti-inflammatory essential fatty acid known as omega-3. Omega-6, while also being essential, i.e. we need to ingest it in order to be healthy, is pro-inflammatory. It's good to have no more than a ratio of about 3 or 4 to 1 in favor of omega-6. A lot of people mistakenly worry that if they go on a vegan diet, they will miss out on many nutrients. The truth is, though, that vegetables, for instance, contain on average 16 times the amount of nutrients relative to meat. So in my opinion, if anyone needs to worry, it's the omnivorous eaters. To ensure adequate micronutrients, i.e. vitamins and minerals, you simply need to eat the range of whole plant foods. Fruits, and especially vegetables, are particularly good. Try to eat the range of differently coloured produce each day, as the colours are the antioxidants. It's good to emphasise dark green leafy vegetables such as kale and bok choy too. In terms of fruits, berries are the real superstars, so I include these daily. Some worry that they would need to take tons of different supplements daily, but the truth is, as long as we're eating a calorically adequate diet, including the range of different whole plant foods, then only about 4 nutrients are of any particular concern. As we live in a sanitized world now, it's important to supplement with the vitamin B12. Previously, we would have gotten our B12, a substance made from bacteria, from our drinking water or potentially from dirt on our food. Around 39% of Americans are reckoned to have suboptimal B12 levels, so it's something that people of all eating modalities should consider. Younger adults need at least 50 micrograms of B12 per day, or they can take a weekly dose of 2,500 micrograms. Due to a decrease in a substance called intrinsic factor, those aged over 65 should take 1,000 micrograms daily. If we're not getting adequate sun exposure, then vitamin D needs to be supplemented too. The vegan version of this is made from lichen as opposed to the standard version, which comes from lanolin, a substance produced by sheep to coat their wool. According to the best available evidence, around 2,000 IUs of vitamin D per day seems to be about optimal for the average adult. However, ideally, we would dose off of blood work. If we're eating adequately of the plant version of omega-3, known as ALA, and we're not eating more than about 3 or 4 times the amount of omega-6 relative to that, then we should be able to produce all the DHA or long-chain omega-3 that our bodies need for ourselves. However, some rare individuals may have a genetic defect where this is not possible. For this reason, many plant-based doctors and dietitians recommend supplementing with 250 milligrams of DHA or a combined EPA DHA capsule per day just to be safe. In addition, there is some science to suggest that the young, elderly, or women during pregnancy may benefit from a DHA supplement too. The vegan version of this supplement is made from algae oil as opposed to fish oil, which is contaminated with toxins that biomagnify up the food chain. And the DHA found in fish oil came from algae in the first place, so even if you're not vegan, eating fish oil is a really silly idea. Any vegan version of the supplements mentioned will do the job. However, if you want my recommendation for the best brand in terms of quality, environmental and ethical practices, then I choose Vivo Life. The last nutrient that I will caution about is iodine. Adults need at least 150 micrograms daily. It is very depleted in our soils now, and seaweeds are one of the few plant foods with appreciable amounts. 1.5 sheets of nori, 1 teaspoon of dulse or arame flakes, 1 1/8 of a teaspoon of wakame, or 1/16 of a teaspoon of kelp powder will do the job. If seaweed is not to your taste, then an iodine supplement is recommended. Because of the natural variability of iodine amounts in seaweed, dietitians actually recommend that thyroid sufferers specifically just use a supplement. When first changing your diet, I recommend to use the free Chronometer app a few times. By plugging your foods in, you'll see total calories, macronutrient ratios, and micronutrient totals. If you find you're coming up low on any particular nutrient, it's easy to do a search and find the plant foods most rich in that nutrient. If by the end of the day you come up a little low on something, don't panic. You can simply eat a bit more the next day and make it up. Some people may struggle to go from their currently unhealthy diet straight to eating completely whole plant foods. The number one problem is the types of bacteria that they've invited to live in the colon predicated on their formerly unhealthy diet. In order to process the excess fibre, we need more of the healthy Prevotella strains of gut bacteria. Happily, these microbes are actually on the foods that we eat, but it just takes a little bit of time for their number to build up in the gut. During the interim, it's possible that we can experience bloating, excess gas, diarrhea, constipation, and even pain. If you experience these problems and it becomes too uncomfortable, it's recommended to spend a few short weeks slowly transitioning over. Add in a little of the new foods and take out a similar amount of calories from the old foods week by week until fully transitioned. Soon enough, your gut bacteria will shift and all will be well. It's also been postulated that as we will have been eating exogenous pre-made animal nutrients such as carnosine and creatine, that our genes would have shut down our own production of these. So we could feel suboptimal in the beginning until the body recognizes what's happening and switches their production back on. One more reason why it may be best to transition slowly. For more great information like this, subscribe to the channel and I'll see you in the next video or live stream. Now click this.